my name is Bonnie Wright and welcome back to Go Gently. Thank you for all your questions from my last video. I asked at the end just to send me the questions because today's video is going to be answering some of those. There were many, they were all wonderful, very interesting, lots of thoughts, ideas, and I'm excited to answer a few. Before I start, I also wanted to just highlight the fact that this week I released an incentive for pre-ordering the book, which was basically a preview of the book from actually pages from the physical book as an ebook download preview. So if you've pre-ordered the book or you're thinking about pre-ordering the book, you will receive this. It's about 20 pages or so, and it's, pages from the actual book. And you'll get a real insight into the breakdowns of the chapters as well in the book and kind of have a bit of an idea of what it's all about, what it's going to look like, and I cannot wait for us all to see the physical copy on April 19th and get to hold a book in our hands. As I'm surrounded by books right now, I cannot believe one day I'm going to be able to just reach behind me and maybe that'll be one of my books. If I'm going to be one of those annoying people with just a whole area in my house with my own book, that would be pretty funny, but don't laugh because it may happen. Okay, let's get on with answering some of your questions. When did I realize I wanted to write a book? You know what, if you told me 3-4 years ago I was gonna have written a book, I wouldn't have laughed probably and not believed you. So I guess for me, you know, much like a lot of things I do, I feel like they're always like an accumulation of ideas. They're kind of sort of brewing under the surface of things, and you know, I'd been obviously exposed to amazing opportunities within frontline research of the climate crisis, or campaigners, or just introduced to incredible activists that are really at the front lines of this work. So I'd always been so inspired by that kind of front-facing, more sort of social kind of online type actions that you were doing, but that I was kind of taking part in the climate movement. But you know, I'd come home and I'd be like, geez, like all this stuff around me in my home, in the way I have to live, doesn't feel like it's really reflecting to the truth of these things that I was kind of campaigning and caring about. So I thought, how could I sort of bring this exterior life into my interior life? And how can I make these often quite overwhelming, ungraspable, huge things more sort of down to a scale I could understand in my home? So I had just been doing these things, kind of implementing changes, being curious into materials, seeing how I could make some of my own products, and not just looking at my single-use plastic waste, but just looking at my reliance on kind of made and bought things, and just like that programmed way of being busy and just needing everything to be convenient. So I was doing these things in my day-to-day life, and slowly over time I thought, actually, maybe these are the most interesting things, you know, maybe more than going and campaigning and doing these bigger, larger scale actions. Maybe not more important, but just different angle. So I thought, wait a minute, maybe there is information in here that I could share. And I was kind of, while I have loved social media and I've loved sharing those things, I found it quite hard and quite overwhelming to actually try and communicate that through social media. And I was really drawn to this idea of a book that would really force me to focus and sit down and sort of push these ideas further too, not just kind of treat them as these quick throwaway ideas, but really research into the depth of them. So the book is a very, very practical book. Just like me, I love practical things, and it just really looks at these things literally I've been implementing in my home that I have found interesting, and I propose them to you with different ideas and sort of resources and information to see if you'll like implementing them in your life too, to be a bit more kind of tangibly a part of the change you want to see. So that is kind of how Go Gently came about. Some challenges that were faced, well, I tell you what, I guess I always knew that writing a book was hard, but wow, it's definitely challenging. I'm usually someone who's pretty good at self-motivation. I've kind of always been like that and kind of had to be like that. But wow, the kind of diligence and the kind of like process of writing a book was kind of like, I felt like I shed many sort of selves, and it was kind of amazing. Like, I had this idea of what I wanted the book to be about, and that evolved and changed, and I changed so much during that. So yeah, there were moments where I was able, because I wasn't on a crunch of the final deadline, to kind of, you know, just wait a minute, I'm hitting a writer's block, I need to just step away, I need to get inspired, read different things. And then there were other days where I was like, doesn't matter you've hit writer's block, I have to hand this draft in tomorrow. It's kind of, you know, I had to push through in those moments. So it was a really interesting challenge of, yeah, that push and pull, and knowing when you just had to get over yourself, and then knowing other times where actually it was moments that you needed to kind of step back from the material and just kind of reevaluate what I was trying to say. How long did it take to write my book? That is a very good question. So the title, Go Gently, and the structure of the book, basically each chapter is Go something, you will find out. That really came to me formed over the kind of Christmas holiday time of 2019 into 2020. And I had already been developing the idea, trying to find a book agent, and then the pandemic hit. And suddenly I had very focused and concentrated time, so hit the ground running, started writing my book proposal, and then I pitched it to 8 different publishers in September, October of 2020. So that was how quick I wrote the proposal. That was an epically long, big thing. Wow, like to anyone who writes a book proposal, it was very long, but very diligent, and very pleased that I got very specific in it. And then from November, when I then signed the book deal with my publishers, I then handed in a draft 6 months later, which at the time that was suggested to me, and I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. Wow, that was a very interesting 6 months, and I loved it. I love concentrating on something, I loved working hard on it, and I loved having a deadline, because often I set my own deadlines, but this was like a real deadline. And then there were a couple other drafts, and then I really finished it June, July of last year, 2021, where I really finished it. And then it was the design process, which was very fun. So many images in the book, beautiful illustrations by an illustrator called Michael George Haddad. And I also just so loved putting all the images together with the incredible crew that I had to create the beautiful images. It was so fun to be on a set again and be around people collaborating on those images. I'd spent so long on my own solitary writing. It felt wonderful to be in a crew together, and especially in times of COVID, to suddenly be actually safely collaborating with people was just a joy. So I'm so excited for you to also see all those beautiful images, and it's very colourful because I love colour. Okay, back to some more questions. Switching focus from the book related questions, I have some couple of questions that were about the Go Gently platform, which I'm so pleased you asked. So I started the Go Gently website and with the intention to bring in more voices, because I love kind of having conversations with people and creating a space that kind of invited different guest writers to have a bit more of, you know, have some more ability to write more words than social media can exist on. So even though websites are still online, to me, long form writing that exists online feels like a slight departure from the kind of online, quick, kind of digestible, caption-based stuff we used to. So the website was really a chance to actually take a moment to just sit and read and hear someone's kind of perspective, identity, kind of interest in a certain topic. So the Go Gently platform, I started because I, just didn't want it to end at the journey of the book. So that website is really about enabling more people to come in and share their voices and be in collaboration with people. Good question. Do you have any interest in doing audio articles or podcasts in the future? I was thinking what could be interesting, I just gotta find the time to do it, is maybe get the writers, the guest writer or myself to like read their article out loud and have it put online. I don't currently have the capacity to start my own podcast right now. I will definitely be going on some podcasts around the time my book is out, which I'm very excited for. But yeah, I wonder if that's of interest to have like an audio file on the website of each article, so that if you would prefer to listen over read, that option could be available for you. So give me some feedback, that would be great. Okay, lots of questions about kind of eco-anxiety, feeling overwhelmed and different things. First, I want to just definitely state that I personally am not yet truly directly affected by the kind of repercussions of the climate crisis. So yes, I would say definitely the future overwhelms me, even the current situation and present overwhelms me, but often what honestly overwhelms me more is my inability sometimes to, or often to personally connect and kind of help those that are directly currently affected by the climate crisis. So yes, I do feel anxiety around it and I do feel overwhelmed, but I think I also experience a certain amount of privilege that can be managed, or I can kind of turn it off or switch it off, which I think is what so many people we are able to do. Often those in power can just switch that off and kind of concentrate on something else. But often I just always with this question, while yes, I agree, and I definitely address this in the book in terms of this intersection of our action, you know, with our kind of going forth and getting things done, but also that intersection, hence the title, Go Gently, of how and where we also sustain our own mental health. But I always think I've wanted to just stress that I too have a privilege of tools at my fingertips, or just a kind of actual disconnect that I can have to the current kind of climate of the climate crisis, whereas so many people in this world are already directly affected by it, and you know, they can feel anxious, but most of the time they just have to feel hopeful and sort of survive in their situation. So thank you, that is a good question, and I definitely address it in the book in terms of how we deal. So, will the book have any recipes? Well, yes it will. If this YouTube channel has been anything to go by, you know that I love food, you know that I love making things. So yes, there is in fact an entire chapter that is all recipes, as in edible ones, drinkable ones, and there's also a whole chapter or two, really, kind of other ones that are about kind of making homemade products. Some of them we've done on this YouTube channel, and then another one, a favorite chapter of mine, that is all about tending and mending and how to keep your things, which is a kind of practical recipe based chapter too. What part of my book are you most excited for your readers to read? Ooh, that's a good question. I honestly feel like kind of terrified that the day the book is going to come out and everyone's like reading it at home, just like which bit people will get attracted to or not. And you know, throughout the process of writing the book, I had to just be like, really put that aside and just write the book kind of for me and my perspective, knowing that some things are going to be loved more than others. But I guess, I don't know, I mean, I try to be sort of very intimate and personal and fun and stuff, so like hopefully people find my humor somewhat okay and interesting. Maybe some cringing moments in there, but I guess I'm just interested. I'm honestly most interested for you to just, my readers, to try stuff, just to have a go and share it on Instagram and like tag me and hashtag me like, oh, I tried this recipe, oh, I loved it, or you know what, I tried this and I actually tried something different in it. Just that kind of interaction, that dialogue, I am so excited for, and I can't believe it's going to happen. Will there be any signed copies of the book? In the UK, I know Waterstones is going to be doing 1,000 signed copies of the book that I'll put the link to. The US, I hope, will do one too. I will find out who and where and how that's going to happen. Also, some people asking, will I be doing any physical book events? Yes. I'll also be doing some virtual ones. There's going to be, don't quote me on this, but currently it's probably going to be in LA, New York and London, and maybe another city within the UK for physical events. So I will definitely update you on that. Okay, so final question. This is, as your interest and passion for eliminating single-use plastics and looking after the planet grew, did you find that you made small changes over time to the way you approach things in your daily life and home, or was it more of a sudden, complete overhaul? That is a great question, because I very much kind of stress this at the beginning of the book, that you will definitely feel totally even more overwhelmed if you decide to address and overhaul your entire life and house and home and everything. So a big thing I suggest in the book is finding an issue you care about and intersecting it with something you find joy in. So for me, I cared about single-use plastics and ocean health, and I loved cooking. I loved being in the kitchen. So I'm going to start with my kitchen, and that's what I did. So I started with something in an area that I knew just I could sustain and would continue to excite me and make me feel creative, because I love the kitchen. And then before I knew it, I began to sort of address different areas of my home with different issues at a time. So I highly recommend doing this. It definitely feels manageable, and it just kind of trickles through your life in a way that works for you. You can currently check in with, be like, you know what, I would love to do that, but I just don't have the capacity right now to change that in my life. And I think that's what's so important. you know, the planet needs us to show up however we are right now. It doesn't need us to be perfect. It needs us to be real, and it needs us to be constantly learning. And that, again, is what the book is about. Showing up imperfectly in this kind of in-process way of action. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that. That feels like a nice ending. So thank you so much for joining me in my little book nook. Hopefully one day Go Gently will be up here in your bookshelves too. And again, if you want that ebook preview and you've pre-ordered the book, I will put the links in the comments, and I really hope you enjoy that sort of around 20-page PDF that gives actual physical look into the book. Thank you so much for everyone who's been engaging in the Go Gently platform. I appreciate you so much. You can also sign up for the newsletter, follow us at gogently.earth on Instagram, subscribe to this channel, leave your comments, do whatever you like. Have a beautiful Sunday, and I'm gonna close out with some footage of a photo shoot that I did this week. Thank you so much again for following along with Go Gently, interacting in all the ways you are. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a beautiful Sunday.